Blair Best. It's Monday here on The Story, and tonight, lawmakers in the Oregon House unanimously passed a bill, which, hey, doesn't happen all that often. The bill is aimed at getting squatters out of the places they've taken over. Plus, we'll introduce you to a group that's trying to solve a problem inside Oregon classrooms, one that's hiding in plain sight. But first, we're looking at predictions for salmon returns this year, what to expect if fishing is your thing. I sat down with a biologist to talk about what it'll take to protect this population. It's our big story tonight. It's that time of year again for people like Kelly Burkhardt.
We're on our first voyage trip to go out and catch some salmon.
And they're not alone. Last week was busy at Chinook Landing in Fairview, Oregon, as people set out on the Columbia River to test their luck.
Kind of rocky.
But I think this year we have a good feeling, so we think we're going to get one today.
Day one's really slow, obviously. Hopefully it'll get better.
Biologists at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, just released this report, predicting that the number of Chinook salmon returning to the Snake and Upper Columbia Rivers in 2025 are above the 10-year average, which sounds great. However,
it's not great returns. It's not returns that I would think would allow recovery.
Brian Burke is a Seattle-based biologist who worked on the report, sampling young salmon once they first entered the ocean and using that data to forecast how many adult salmon will return a year or two later to spawn in Northwest rivers.
But the last 10 years for spring Chinook, fall Chinook, steelhead have been lower than, say, the average of the last 20 or the last 30 years.
The fish just are particular, and a lot of times, I think last season when we were out fishing, they were just really on a mission to go up to the dam or wherever they were heading to spawn. So I think you just have to be in the right place at the right time.
The NOAA report goes on to credit strong spring upwelling. That's when cool, nutrient-rich water rises to the top of the ocean, making for good salmon conditions.
What the ocean conditions in 23 and 24 imply for the number of fish coming back in 25 and in 26 is that it's about average.
So we're in that period of where the salmon are returning. So last year's numbers were pretty strong. Hoping this year's numbers will be pretty strong.
There have definitely been times in that period when returns were a lot higher than they're expected to be now.
The major contributing factors, Burke says, warmer ocean temperatures and a perceived increase in predators.
Well, if the water's too warm, they ain't going to come back.
Salmon don't have a choice to move where they're entering the ocean or where they're returning from. A lot of other organisms in the ocean, as it's warming, can shift their distributions. And so, predators and prey of salmon, as the ocean warms over, decades, they can just shift to northern areas that are in their optimal temperature range. Salmon don't really have that luxury.
This video taken last week shows a pod of orcas, also known as killer whales, along the Oregon coast in Depot Bay. These whales have been known to eat salmon, but it's hard to know for sure what they're after. Burke says tracking salmon predators is something NOAA struggles with, especially now with a lack of funding and staff.
When I present to, say, a group of managers and I say something like, hey, I think there's a lot of predation going on. I think that predation rates are going up. Often I'll get, a comment that's like, well, so what? There's nothing you could do about ocean predation. And I disagree. I think that we manage fisheries. We have Marine Mammal Protection Act. There are things that we're already doing to manage the ocean. But we're not managing it for survival of salmon.
A key piece in protecting Pacific Northwest salmon.
And with climate change, the systems changing, the things that are connected to salmon, whether it's prey or predators or spatial distributions, those things are all shifting. And if we're not out there studying that, we're going to have no idea how they're shifting.
All we can do is hope. That's why we call it fishing.
Now, despite the challenges, the NOAA report highlights positive signs in the outlooks for some Chinook salmon stocks returning to the Columbia and California River basins this year and next. Now, the biologist I talked with, Brian Burke, is heading out the end of next month to catch and study this year's salmon. He and his team will be starting at the Columbia and working their way north to La Push, Washington. And he mentioned, due to a lack of funding and staff, not being able to track data around predators as a way to protect salmon. Well, it's not looking like they'll be getting those resources anytime soon. NOAA is among the federal agencies facing cuts under President Trump. Last month, NOAA management was instructed to lay off 10% of its workforce, which is predicted to impact not only this kind of marine research, but life-saving weather forecasts too. Turning now to a problem on many properties across the state, squatters. Throughout the last few years of covering homelessness and the housing crisis, I have seen a lot of places taken over by squatters. In July of 2023, I went inside the Charles F. Berg building in downtown Portland. It's a historic building which had been sitting empty for years. Squatters had moved in. Look at that, leaving behind blood, needles, urine. Let's just say a huge mess. I mean, I literally can still remember the smell to this day. Back then, I talked with the building's broker.
They were obviously doing like active drug use throughout. You can see each of them kind of chose a bedroom, and they each had their stuff in bedrooms throughout the building, like in our office spaces.
So crazy. Now, the year before, in 2022, I met with a realtor representing a homeowner in Southeast Portland who was beaten up by squatters living in his home, and he struggled to sell it because of how hard it was to get them out.
Costs money, you got to get an attorney, file out all these papers, and it's like 90 days minimum. But if you don't have the financial resources, you're screwed, and that's the bottom line.
So that home eventually did sell to a man who was able to convince the squatters to leave. But not everyone has the resources to devote to evicting squatters, which right now can take months. The police won't usually remove people who claim they have a right to live there. They leave that one up to the courts. And the court process to get someone evicted from a home takes a long time. But lawmakers in Salem are hoping to change that. The House unanimously passed House Bill 3522 last week that would allow homeowners or landlords to get squatters out much faster. And you heard that right, unanimously passed. We can't say that often in Salem. Right now, you can't evict a squatter unless you can prove they forced their way into a home or that they already had an established landlord-tenant relationship. You have to go through a different legal path called ejectment, which takes a lot longer and costs way more. This bill defines a squatter as anyone who stays in a home without the legal right to be there. It also gives owners the right to use the state's standard eviction process with just 24 hours notice. Now, one of the bill's chief sponsors, Representative Anessa Hartman, said she started working on the bill after hearing stories from people in her district, which includes Gladstone and Oregon City.
When a new constituent in Gladstone purchased their home through property auction, only to find that individuals that knew the previous owner had not left the house and claimed squatters' rights. While the new owner and law enforcement attempted to have meaningful conversations with these individuals, it quickly turned into a nightmare. Among other negative activity, the squatters began protesting by hanging Nazi flags around the property and making their feelings known by refusing to leave, even when they were offered services to help to relocate. What should have been a milestone moment for this new homeowner turned into a drawn-out and expensive ejectment lawsuit, spending thousands of dollars and waiting months just to gain access to the home they rightfully owned.
The bill had its first reading in the Senate today, and we'll be watching. Well, turning now to some of your thoughts on our big story from Friday. We finally got our first look at the framework for how Oregon lawmakers plan to fund transportation. We spent a lot of time getting into the nitty-gritty details of the proposal, but some of the big takeaways: a 20-cent per gallon jump in the gas tax over the span of 6 years, a $66 increase in registration fees, a $90 increase in vehicle title fees, and a new system use fee, which would be a 1% fee the state would collect when you buy a vehicle based on how much it costs, and plans to phase in a pay-per-mile plan starting with electric vehicles as early as next year. But remember, This is just a framework. Nothing is set in stone. But this is the starting point lawmakers will use as haggling continues this session. You can catch our full segment from Friday on the KGW YouTube channel. But the vast majority of you who were watching felt like a viewer named Dawn, who wrote, "Wow, they managed to hit more buttons than I knew existed. Just what is needed when we're being screwed every other way by everybody else. No wonder people are moving across the river where there is a sales tax, no income tax, and no use fees, or all of the other taxes that Oregon seems to be able to dream up."
Why aren't we actually taxing the people that are buying the electric cars? That's the reason that we're not, having the gas tax cover things.
Okay, so we get that sentiment a lot, so let's explain. Electric vehicle owners would argue they are paying their fair share and making up for lost gas taxes because they pay a lot more in registration fees, more than double, in fact. And they can lower that registration cost currently if they enroll in the voluntary pay-per-mile program. But the framework released last week would make it mandatory depending on what you drive. Starting next year, EV drivers would either pay by the mile or pay a flat annual fee, and they'd no longer be charged the higher registration fees. Over the next few years, newly purchased EVs and plug-in hybrids would be included. And by 2029, gas-powered cars that are model year 2030 and beyond that get more than 30 miles to the gallon would also pay the fee. No word yet on what the pay-per-mile charge or flat annual fee would be. Viewer Jessica is not a fan, writing, "I'm upset with the pay-per-mile tax being proposed. Those of us in rural communities have to travel a lot further for our purchases on a regular basis, and public transportation is limited. This just doesn't feel fair. I'm just flabbergasted at the thoughtless ideas coming out of the legislature." And we get this one a lot too. DP writing to us, "You don't have to look hard to see that a significant number of vehicles on the road have expired license plates. I wonder why ODOT isn't looking at a crackdown to raise revenue." Well, that's because ODOT cannot crack down on expired registration. While they issue it, they do not enforce it. That's up to local transportation and law enforcement agencies. So here in Portland, that would be PBOT and the Police Bureau. So a crackdown on expired tabs would not offer a revenue stream for ODOT. We did get one email, though, from a viewer who supports the framework for transportation. Linda wrote to us saying, "I know this seems to be a lot of money, but I get really tired of people wanting the moon but aren't willing to pony up to pay for it. Our roads and bridges are in bad need of maintenance and repair. How are we going to pay for it? It has to come out of our pockets. It isn't going to get any better if we don't do anything about the infrastructure." Well, coming up next on the story, a special report by Laurel Porter, who followed along as a mobile clinic made its way to Southeast Portland, giving young students there the tools they need to succeed. Why the organization hopes to spread its vision all across the country when the story returns. The greatest obstacles for young students are often not intelligence or effort, but sometimes it's as simple as not seeing the world clearly. It's estimated 1 in 4 students needs glasses, but there are a lot of students who go to school without the eyewear they need to succeed. Laurel Porter introduces us to an organization operating here in Oregon whose mission is to ensure every child has what they need to learn.
It's called Vision to Learn. It's a national nonprofit with a mobile clinic right here in Oregon. They're making it easier for Oregon students to get access to eye care, especially in underserved communities that are often overlooked. Photojournalist Kurt Austin and I saw firsthand how Vision to Learn is transforming blurred obstacles into clear opportunities.
Eyes up. I heard you guys actually use a lot of good words that we don't have up on our board here. When we're done with that,
in Miss Miranda's 4th grade class,
you can add a synonym for amazing.
Words like amazing shimmer with possibility.
Can I do full of glaciers?
Here, students lean in. Young minds illuminated by curiosity.
To our amazing synonyms.
Shiny.
Ooh, I like that one.
But for students like Caven, his full potential remains just beyond focus. A barrier invisible to all but him. He can't see clearly.
I'm really excited to see what he's capable of because he's a very clever kid. And he's so sweet, but he can't meaningfully engage, again, because can't really see what's happening.
All right. Enter Vision to Learn, a nonprofit whose name doubles as its mission. Its mobile clinic rolling into Lincoln Park Elementary's parking lot in southeast Portland at 130th near Division.
It's a phoropter.
Arriving precisely where it's needed most.
Glasses helps them, especially in the future.
This converted Sprinter van houses a universe of transformation. Within its compact frame, instruments that measure, lenses that reveal, and professionals who understand that sight is the foundation for learning.
This is to check their eye pressure.
Licensed optometrist Jenny Chow.
Awesome, good job.
And optician Abby Lopez Pena work side by side.
And I'm coming in, big eyes.
Providing complete eye exams.
Good job.
In this traveling clinic.
We found that kids being misdiagnosed with, for example, ADHD, when in fact they couldn't see properly to focus in class.
Weeks earlier, Vision to Learn screened Caven and his classmates to see if they might need glasses. On average, about 25% need exams, and of those, 90% need glasses. A common story hiding in plain sight across classrooms everywhere.
It literally transforms the world for kids.
Cassie Regan speaks with a dual perspective.
What is more important than being able to see?
As Vision to Learn coordinator and former teacher.
I look back and just wish Vision to Learn was at my school when I was teaching, because so many behavior problems and kids getting behind in school is for no other reason other than they can't see.
Do you have trouble seeing in class?
On this day, Vision to Learn returns to campus, the culmination of those initial screenings, where possibility becomes reality.
Hi.
The promise of better vision materializes in frames and lenses.
Thank you. Okay. Big chair is yours.
In one family's story, a pattern 3 times repeated.
How good is your eyesight now?
Great.
Caven and both brothers need glasses. Their mother, Maria's gratitude transcends language barriers.
She says that she's very, very grateful and that she was surprised to see that this was even an opportunity. You see that tiny line of letters?
The distance between seeing and succeeding can be measured in millimeters. The precise curve of a lens.
Option 1 or option 2? This one better, or
the exact width of a frame.
The bottom one.
Small adjustments.
This one.
With the power to realign a child's entire world.
Okay, so we're gonna get you glasses. You can wear them when you're in class and when you're reading your books.
For a child, getting new glasses represents a rewritten future.
Yay, I'll be back in a month with your glasses. Okay. You ready?
where potential is no longer obscured
Big eyes, bling, bling, bling.
by the simple barrier
Let me adjust this one.
of blurred sight.
That one? Square? Square.
Everyone has the right to be able to see. Like being able to kind of remove all of those barriers so that all of our students can see is just incredible. It really is magical.
Did you have a hard time choosing between the frames? And you remember Abby?
All right, I've got your glasses. Do you guys remember when we went to the van?
Yeah.
And we took a look at your eyes?
3 weeks after the eye exams,
Let's try them on.
the moment of revelation arrives.
You guys open the case.
The small cases containing what might as well
Very nice.
be magic.
Yeah, everything looking nice and clear, or does it feel kind of blurry?
Good.
Inside, lenses ground precisely for Caven and his classmate Melanie.
Yeah, I like those. Those look really good.
Frames chosen with childhood excitement.
You see the difference? Yeah, you can see the difference. Yeah, it's always a fun day.
What unfolds is nothing short of alchemy.
You're all done?
The transformation from seeing
What do you think? You can hold this.
to truly beholding,
Good. Is it better like this or like this?
It does.
from struggling to soaring.
So you don't need to wear them all day unless you want to.
Honestly, it feels like they've thought of everything along the way, and that's something I've been so impressed with the partnership. They even provide services if students break their glasses.
Just like your other ones.
Or if they lose them. Second grader Isaac is back to get a replacement pair.
What do you think? Yeah. Very good. Quiet hands.
Back in Miss Miranda's 4th grade class, for Caven and Melanie,
Thank you.
wearing their new glasses means what was once fuzzy around the edges has come into focus. What was once a barrier, now a bridge.
And that's the most important thing because seeing is learning, and that's why we're here.
Vision to learn, connecting potential with achievement, and what these children see with what they can become.
Oh, Melanie girl, your glasses are cute.
Vision to Learn has one mobile clinic in Oregon right now, but in the 18 months they've been here, they've already helped 3,000 kids, gotten them glasses in 40 schools and 6 different school districts, so they're doing a great job.
Yeah, that's incredible. Do they have plans to expand to reach even more kids?
Well, they sure would like to. There's a bill right now before the Oregon legislature. It's being heard in the House Education Committee this afternoon into this evening, so they have their fingers crossed about that. So they hope to be able to expand to all Oregon kids. Austin Butner is the founder of Vision to Learn, and his mission is to be able to offer glasses, provide glasses to all kids who need them in every school across the country. And he thinks he'll be able to do that within the decade, with the possibility of expanding into dental care and also hearing exams.
That's
so
wonderful.
Big plans.
Yeah. And I got to say, Laura, a lot of viewers wonder where you went. You know, we don't see you every day, but tell us, you're still doing special projects like this one.
Well, I'm working behind the scenes, often with our photojournalist Kurt Austin, and we're really working on an exciting project right now that involves 40 years after the fall of Rajneeshpuram in Central Oregon, the untold story of what happened to the children. That's coming up later this month, so be watching for that. So I'm staying busy, but just behind the scenes. But great to be here with you and your producer Colton. Thanks for having me. Keep up the great work.
We love having you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Blair.
And we just got word that bill Laurel mentioned, House Bill 2992, passed unanimously out of the House Education Committee today. The bill's next stop, the Joint Committee on Ways and Means, who will talk about its financial impact. And we'll keep you posted. Stick with us. We're back right after this. Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Straight Talk is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we re-air the episode at 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. on our TV app, KGW+. It will also be airing there the next day at 11:30 a.m. And you can download that free KGW+ app right now. It's on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Have a great Monday night. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.